I heard what sounded like multiple sustained grunts. That was big lung capacity, a big sound. That was not a bear sound. The sounds that came up from that valley was unnatural and didn't belong there.
Russel Acord barely made it back alive after a terrifying twist on Expedition Bigfoot.
What the hell? What is going on?
What started as a routine exploration quickly became a fight for survival, with eerie forest cries guiding the team deeper into a dark unknown.
So often is that we'll hear a sound and we try to find the direction that it was coming from and then not know if whatever made it is still there.
They weren't just tracking footprints. They were caught in a deadly game with something watching them from the shadows.
It's almost like someone is turning down the volume on the forest. That can happen for a lot of reasons, especially if there's a predator nearby.
Let us step into the shadows and face what watches, waiting for their next move. When exploration turns to survival. Russel Acord barely made it back after what seemed like an ordinary exploration turned into something much more sinister on the latest episode of Expedition Bigfoot. The untamed wilderness, which had once promised only the beauty of untouched nature, suddenly held secrets that felt too real, too close, and far more dangerous than expected. But in those final moments, Russel knew something far more dangerous was lurking just out of sight. In a quiet forest, seemingly cut off from time itself, Russel and his team made an astonishing discovery, a series of enormous footprints, the likes of which no one in the scientific community could explain. These prints were not just large, they had a mystery that drew a person in, almost daring them to follow. It was the kind of find that researchers in the cryptozoological world only dream about. Russel couldn't have known that this discovery would lead him down a path that tested both his physical endurance and his courage. The footprints led deeper into the forest, where light barely penetrated through the dense canopy. The air was thick, and each step seemed to take the team further away from the world they knew. These prints were unlike anything familiar. They weren't from a bear, a known animal, or even a human hoax. There was a sense of purpose in the way they were laid out, as if marking a trail for something or someone that didn't want to be found. The sheer size of the footprints, coupled with their stride, hinted at a creature of immense power and weight, a creature not bound by human limitations. The team worked quickly, taking casts of the prints, documenting each detail with the kind of precision that only years in the field could bring. Every ridge and curve told a story that suggested an upright being with strength far surpassing that of any known predator in these woods. Russel, Mara Mayer, and Ronnie LeBlanc shared a moment of silent understanding. They were possibly standing on evidence of something that science had yet to classify, something beyond the border of what was considered real. But what if it wasn't just one creature? What if these were the traces of a family, a clan of beings that had remained hidden for centuries? This idea grew stronger as the team found smaller prints alongside the larger ones, suggesting a group with individuals of various sizes. The tracks wove through dense undergrowth, and Russel felt a strange unease as they followed them deeper. The deeper they went, the more the forest itself seemed to resist them. Branches tangled in their path, shadows lengthened, and an unnatural silence fell. The remote location added credibility to their find. It was simply too isolated for a hoax. It would be nearly impossible for someone to create these prints here without leaving behind traces of their own presence. The rough terrain, steep climbs, and dense vegetation made the possibility of a staged prank laughable. But the atmosphere in those woods wasn't one of triumph. Instead, it felt as though they were being watched, observed by something that knew the land far better than they did. The team's decision to involve Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a leading figure in the study of unidentified beings, added weight to their research. Dr. Meldrum examined the depth of the impressions, the unusual shape of the feet, and confirmed that these were unlike anything documented before. Every detail they gathered seemed to push them closer to an answer, yet the answer itself remained elusive, like a whisper carried away by the wind. Russel couldn't shake the feeling of being outmatched by whatever had left those tracks. He had faced dangerous situations before, but there was something different this time. a sense that they were trespassing into a territory where humans were not meant to be. The tracks led them to the edge of a stream where they abruptly ended, as if the creature had taken to the water. The dense, cold water seemed to swallow up all evidence, leaving nothing but an empty trail and an unsettling silence. Daylight was fading fast, and a sudden, eerie shift in the atmosphere enveloped them. The temperature dropped sharply, the kind of cold that settled into their bones. Even the usual sounds of the forest, the chirping of birds, the rustling of small animals, seemed to vanish. The world around them felt frozen in time, as if holding its breath. Russel knew they had to leave before darkness fell completely, but the compulsion to stay, to see just a bit more, was nearly overpowering. What if they were on the verge of something groundbreaking? What if just beyond the next hill, they found the creature itself? The rugged terrain and unpredictable weather only added to their challenges. Washington State's wilderness is no friend to those unprepared, and the forest had no mercy that day. Rain clouds rolled in, and soon a steady downpour threatened to erase the precious tracks they had found. They rushed to make casts, protect their equipment, and take every last photo before the rain transformed the ground into a muddy canvas. It was as though nature itself wanted to wipe away the evidence, to keep the secret hidden for a little longer. Just when it seemed they had documented all they could, the night crept in. The forest, once just mysterious, it became something else entirely. A place of deep shadows and creeping dread. The light from their flashlights barely pierced through the gloom, and every rustle of leaves felt amplified, echoing off the surrounding trees. It wasn't just fear of the unknown, it was the sense that they were not alone, that perhaps whatever had left those footprints was watching them, hidden in the darkness. The expedition ended with the team making a swift decision to leave, to return with more resources, more people, and perhaps more courage. As they trekked back, each member of the team felt the weight of what they had experienced. They had stepped into a world that very few believed in, but one that had now shown them a glimpse of something extraordinary. The footprints, the strange silence, the feeling of being watched, they all pointed to a presence that eluded easy explanation. Was this the closest anyone had ever come to proving the existence of the elusive Bigfoot? Or was this just the beginning of something far more terrifying? A realization that we are not the dominant beings in these untamed places. Russel Acord had barely made it back, but he had brought with him questions that demanded answers. And as the forest settled back into its timeless silence, one couldn't help but wonder, was something still out there, watching and waiting? Is this just the beginning of their encounter with the unknown? Could the next step be the one that finally reveals the truth? Were they really alone? Deep in the forest, Russel Acord barely escaped what might have been the most intense expedition yet. The latest episode of Expedition Bigfoot revealed not just the discovery of strange footprints, but also a chilling encounter that left the entire team questioning if they were truly alone out there. The dense woods of Washington State are known for hiding secrets, but this time something seemed different. Something was watching them. Tools designed to monitor wildlife, once used only to track elusive animals, have now become the eyes and ears for cryptozoologists searching for creatures like Sasquatch. Trail cameras that activate at the slightest movement are set up in places where people have long whispered about sightings. Unlike any human, these cameras sit quietly day and night, catching what the forest holds. Sometimes it's a deer, and other times it's something inexplicable. It's this very kind of technology that allowed Russel and his team to spot something that sent shivers down their spines. On this recent expedition, as they trudged through an area thick with trees and heavy with history, they found a series of strange footprints. The footprints weren't just any ordinary tracks. They were enormous, far larger than any bear or known animal. They carefully measured every inch of the impressions, noting the length, depth, and spacing. With precise documentation, they aimed to unlock the story behind these mysterious prints. Could this be the evidence they've been waiting for? Washington State is well known for its Bigfoot lore. Its vast forests and untamed wilderness make it the perfect hiding place for any creature that wishes to avoid humankind. Over the years, many locals have spoken of strange sounds in the night and fleeting glimpses of large, shadowy figures slipping between the trees. These reports keep coming, and Russell's team wanted to see if there was more than just myth behind these tales. The team decided to stay overnight, keeping their cameras and sensors ready for any activity. As the sun dipped behind the tall pines, the forest seemed to change, growing darker and quieter, as if it too was holding its breath. The air felt thick with anticipation. Then, not long after midnight, came a sound, a low, distant rustle that echoed through the stillness. Was it just the wind or something else entirely? The next morning brought clarity in the form of more tracks, some larger, some smaller, as though perhaps more than one creature had moved through the area. This unexpected find opened up an intriguing possibility. Could these be the footprints of a family? The thought of a group of these creatures, possibly the parent and young, or a small clan, raised new questions for the researchers. If Sasquatch is real, could it be that they live together, perhaps even protect each other like a family unit? Such an idea would mean a more complex existence than anyone had imagined. The excitement within the team was palpable as they meticulously analyzed each track. Every print told a part of the story, the size suggesting enormous weight, the depth indicating careful movement. They imagined a creature walking on two legs, navigating the uneven forest floor. Yet what fascinated them most was the idea of social behavior. What if Bigfoot isn't just an elusive loner, but a member of a group, interacting, protecting, even nurturing others? This kind of behavior would put Sasquatch on a different level, not just as an animal, but as a creature with a community. Russel Acord and his team knew they had to gather every piece of evidence available, and that included the possibility of DNA. Every brush against a tree or any hair caught on a branch could be crucial. If they could get even the smallest sample, it could answer the biggest question of all. What is Bigfoot? And more importantly, does it share any genetic links with animals we already know? The idea of using DNA analysis brought hope to the team. They collected samples from the footprints and scoured the surrounding area for anything that could yield a clue. In past research, similar techniques have helped identify animals previously thought to be extinct. Why not Bigfoot? The footprints were detailed, giving more information than they had ever hoped for, but DNA could offer proof that would silence even the loudest skeptics. The silence of the forest that morning that was interrupted only by the sounds of their tools, cameras clicking, brushes sweeping dirt away. Each moment felt like it brought them closer to something incredible. The forest, which had always felt like an impenetrable wall of mystery, now seemed to be offering up its secrets. But would it be enough? Despite the careful work and precise measurements, the question lingered. What if they weren't alone while doing all of this? The night before, they'd heard something moving, felt eyes on them from the shadows. Even the most rational members of the team couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Was it paranoia, the result of long days and sleepless nights? Or was there really something out there lurking just beyond their sight? The feeling of being watched followed them back to camp. The forest seemed alive, not just with birds and wildlife, but with something unseen, something that moved silently and stayed just out of view. As they reviewed the footage from their trail cameras, they caught brief, fleeting images, blurry shapes moving among the trees, nothing definitive but enough to make them question what they had just experienced. Was this evidence of a creature observing them, keeping its distance but curious about the intruders in its territory? The answers weren't clear, and that uncertainty was perhaps the most thrilling part of it all. The footprints, the rustling sounds, the blurry images, it all pointed to something. But what that something was, they couldn't say. Yet Russel Acord and his team knew one thing for sure. They were on the edge of something extraordinary. Something that might change everything they thought they knew about these forests and what hides within them. Could these footprints be the key to unraveling the mystery of Bigfoot? Or would they simply add to the long list of unexplained phenomena? The dense forests of Washington had always held their secrets tightly, and it seemed they were only willing to offer glimpses at a time. The journey wasn't over. In fact, it felt like it was only just beginning. The expedition had given them more questions than answers, but that was the nature of the search. Russel Acord knew they had to keep going, keep pushing into the unknown. They had to go back, armed with their cameras, their questions, and their hope. Because what if the next footprint, the next rustle in the dark, was the one that finally revealed the truth? The team packed up, leaving the forest behind for now, but they all felt it. The pull of the unknown, the call of something still hidden, waiting to be found. And as they walked away, they couldn't help but wonder, had they just missed their chance to see it? Would the forest give up its secrets next time? Or would they have to work even harder to catch just one more glimpse of the creature that has eluded mankind for so long? Where the safety trails end. The deep woods held a secret that few were ready to confront. Russel Acord and his team, known for their bravery and relentless pursuit of the unknown, faced something far beyond what they had ever expected. It all began when they journeyed into the untouched wilderness for another episode of Expedition Bigfoot, a place where no roads led, only rugged trails and hidden paths. They found themselves miles from any sign of civilization, surrounded by towering trees that whispered secrets only the wild could understand. Bryce Johnson was the first to notice that something was off. It wasn't just the eerie silence or the distance from the nearest town. It was the feeling that they weren't alone. Objects around their campsite began to move. Tools left in one spot would appear in another, and equipment seemed to shift when no one was watching. There were no tracks to suggest an animal had been there, and no marks from any creature that would logically explain it. No bears, no wolves, nothing to account for what they saw. It was as though the forest itself was alive, playing games with them, daring them to notice. As the nights grew longer, strange sounds emerged from the darkened woods. It started softly, distant calls that echoed like cries of distress. It was almost human, but not quite. Each night the cries came closer, creeping through the thick, shadowy woods and wrapping the camp in an unsettling atmosphere. The cries grew louder and seemed to have an intelligence behind them. Not random, not like the howls of coyotes or the growls of predators. It was as if someone was calling to them, testing their resolve. The men tried to stay focused, but the atmosphere in the camp changed. Tension hung heavy, and sleep was elusive. A sense of dread settled in, a feeling that wasn't just fear, but something deeper. A warning. It was like an invisible weight pressing down on them, urging them to leave. The team began to feel like intruders, unwelcome in a place that didn't belong to them. They could sense it, the forest pushing back against their presence. Finally, it became too much. The workers at the logging site, those tough men who knew the dangers of the wild, packed up and left without looking back. They abandoned weeks of hard work, unwilling to spend another minute in that haunted forest. The whispers of Bigfoot, the stories of strange disappearances, they were all too real in that moment, too real to ignore. Russell and his team felt the gravity of Bryce's story. They knew they had to go deeper, push forward despite the risks. Prince of Wales Island seemed like the next step, a place that held its own mysteries, its own secrets. The journey there was fraught with challenges. Rain poured down in relentless sheets, soaking their gear and turning the ground into a slippery mess. The air grew colder, the wind howling through the treetops. The team knew they needed shelter soon. Night was closing in, and with it, the darkness that had begun to feel almost alive. The deeper they ventured, the more the forest seemed to resist them. It wasn't just the rain or the cold, it was the feeling of being watched. Then Russell stumbled across something that sent a chill down his spine. A strong, putrid odor filled the air, a smell that was unmistakable. It led him to a gruesome discovery: animal remains hanging from the branches, twisted and torn. The sight was unsettling, not something nature would have done. It was deliberate, a warning, or perhaps a message. The team stood in silence, staring up at the macabre display, their senses on high alert. As they pushed forward, the sounds returned. Something was out there, moving in the dark, staying just out of sight. The team heard the unmistakable crunch of footsteps, not the four-legged movement of a bear, but something heavier, something walking on two legs. They tried to get closer, to see what it was, but every time they approached, it retreated, melting into the shadows. It was as if it knew they were coming, always staying one step ahead. The tension was almost unbearable. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves had them spinning, searching for a glimpse of whatever was stalking them. Morning brought little comfort. Russell returned to the place where they had seen the animal remains, only to find them gone. Not a trace remained, as if they had never been there. It was impossible to shake the feeling that something or someone had been watching them, moving through the forest, always aware of where they were. The forest was alive, not just with animals, but with something else, something that didn't want them there. As they continued their search, the reality of their situation became even more apparent. They came across bear tracks, huge, unmistakable imprints in the muddy ground. The team was reminded that this wasn't just about the mysterious cries or the eerie feelings. There were real physical dangers out here. Bears, predators that wouldn't hesitate if they felt threatened. They were deep in the wilderness, and every step was a reminder of just how fragile their safety was. The team carried bear guards, weapons meant to protect them, but it was clear that they were in over their heads. This wasn't just a quest for Bigfoot. It was a battle to survive in a place that was as hostile as it was mysterious. The nights grew longer, the forest darker. The cries continued, each one seeming to come from a different direction, leading them deeper into the woods, away from safety. Russell knew they were close to something that was watching, waiting. But what was it? What force was driving them further into the unknown, testing their courage, their sanity? Was it Bigfoot, the elusive creature that had haunted the stories of the wilderness for so long? Or was it something else entirely? Something that defied explanation? The forest held its secrets tightly, and Russell knew that whatever was out there, it wasn't going to reveal itself easily. It was a game of patience, a test of willpower, and the team was running out of both. Could they uncover the truth before it was too late? Or would the forest claim them, just as it had so many others who dared to venture too far? The answer lay somewhere in the shadows, waiting for those brave enough to keep searching. Is it Sasquatch or something far darker? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you are brave enough.